Howdy do y'all. Tables here. We have our second league starter for 3.21 Crucible League. Super excited to bring you guys this one. I leveled this one in 3.20 and kind of theory crafted it. And it is a very cheap build to get online. Super cheap to get online. Probably the cheapest build I've ever done that has the damage that it has on League Start, which is really exciting. So for the configuration, there's really just one thing you need to know about. We run Predator support, so make sure that when you're doing bosses, if you want to see your boss DPS, you need to have this checked. Beyond that, fire exposure, ignite, that's about it, really. So for rares, you're going to be doing about 4 mil. Without, you're going to be doing about 3.5, give or take. We're constantly using Bone Offering, so always have this checked. There's really not ever going to be a time where you're not using it. So I like to just keep it checked. We have a full notes section here for any like tips or whatever. So you can refer to that if you're looking for a little bit more info or you need a little help. We have very typical 3-link and 4-link setup. The way this build works is we run Minion Instability, right? And so we're running on the League Star, we're running Infernal Legion so that they pop when they get to a certain threshold of max life. Really, this build is extremely straightforward. You can't mess it up, literally. The only thing that I would say is do not use minion damage support as it lowers the life, and that is what we are trying to scale. Minion life equals more damage, just baseline. That's all. That's really all you need to know. The mastery changes didn't affect this build at all, and this tree you see here is largely unchanged compared to the in-game tree. So there's not really going to be much to do other than upgrading our gems and whatnot. The tree is all, pretty much as many minion nodes as we can take. Block nodes, spell block, attack block, a little hulking corpse and dread march medium cluster here. Eventually, you will run an enduring small cluster jewel so that we can get endurance charges, which is going to be very important to keep us alive. It will cap out our physical damage reduction because as you can see right now in the league start, it is not capped, which is fine because we have a lot of real true block. No glancing blows action. If you block, you don't take damage, period. So with that said, here's the tree. As far as the Ascendency goes, I like to go Commander of Darkness first for the additional resistances. Really helps leveling through the campaigns early. Then we go Mindless Aggression, Bone Barrier for the guard skill and the more life. And then we do Mistress of Sacrifice at the very end for our Uber Labyrinth. There's not really much to talk about here. Get your masteries. It's not a bad idea to just, when you finish out the wheel, go ahead and get the mastery. Not a big deal. Eldritch Battery, however, as you can notice, our unreserved mana is quite low. And that's because we're trying to reserve as much as we can because we, in fact, use Energy Shield to cast Summon Raging Spirit. So when you feel like you have enough Energy Shield, and it's not a bad idea to run armor and Energy Shield bases for this purpose so you can remain tanky enough to take hits, but also give yourself enough ES to continually cast Summon Raging Spirit. I'm trying to think of when would be like a really proper time to switch to Eldritch Battery. I would say 150 ES minimum, maybe even 100. You're gonna get regrets during the campaign, so try it out. And if it doesn't feel good enough, then just wait for a little bit. Eventually, you'll get some better bases, and you will increase your ES pool. This helps considerably with that. I would recommend getting this before you switch to Eldritch Battery. Okay, for our skills, we're running Flammability, Flame Dash, Bone Bear. Feel free to use Flesh Offering. It's in the notes section, but feel free to use Flesh Offering until you use Bone, because we are not taking Mistress of Sacrifice until our Uber Lab. Since we are softcore, this is a pretty tanky build. If you ended up doing it on hardcore, obviously you would go Mistress of Sacrifice first, and then save Bone Barrier for last, and/or Commander of Darkness, whichever one you prefer. Most likely, it would be Bone Barrier. Desecrate, Convocation. Desecrate stays level 1. Ray Spectre, Meat Shield, Minion Life, Animate Guardian. I will have a full set of gear in the item section when this video goes live, or excuse me, by league start on Friday, for what gear your Animate Guardian should run. A note for the AG. I do not bother running AG until I have Divergent 2020. I'm not going to waste time on something that is a lesser quality, because it may end up dying and I'm going to have to redo this process all over again. So I prefer to just make sure it needs to be where it needs to be at and call it good. So that way I know it's got the best of stuff that I can get it. It's got the most HP, and I have the best shot of it not dying and having to repeat that process. For our Spectres, we're running Arena Master and Carnage Chieftain, just to squeeze out some frenzy charges a little bit more on hit DPS. The Summon Raging Spirits don't die instantly, right? They run around for a little bit and then they explode. So it just squeezes out a little bit more. Now for our 6th link, which is actually like a 5.5 link, we're running Summon Raging Spirit, Minion Life, Predator support for rares and uniques. Concentrated effect, Fire Penetration, and Infernal Legion. I say 5.5 link because Infernal Legion's DPS is pretty crap. It's really just there to make sure that these guys explode. So eventually in the in-game setup, we will have a full-on 6 link. And by all means, when you're mapping, swap this out for Ignite Proliferation if you want to. I was surprised at how well it helped the clear, and it does help a lot. You lose a little bit of damage, obviously, but you gain faster mapping. And for me, that's kind of invaluable. Our Stone Golem setup, Feeding Frenzy, Elemental Army for our exposure, Combustion, pretty self-explanatory here. Our auras, Determination, Summon Skitterbots, Tempest Shield, Immune to Shock, Defiance Banner, and then Bone Barrier, our guard skill that we get from our Ascendency. So it's a pretty simple and straightforward situation. Just a few notes. Don't use minion damage support, and don't waste time getting your Animate Guardian too early. Make sure it has all the pieces it needs and make sure it's the right quality. Trust me, I know this from experience. Now, as far as the items go, when I said this build is cheap, I meant it is cheap. You can get this while you're leveling through the campaign for like a chaos or two. Now you're going to be paying more for a max roll 250% increased damage Red Covenant, but you're not going to do that for a little bit, right? So these are the mods that we're looking for. Those mods are also in the notes section. You can run with any base you like. As you can see, we have plenty of energy shield, and even without armor and evasion hybrid bases. Dex shouldn't be that big of a deal to get. You're really not going to need much of it, depending on what bases you do go. If you want to go these hybrid bases to try and get a little bit of spell suppression, you will need more Dex, and you will need to pick that up on your rings and your amulets. As far as flasks go, you can do whatever you want. You want phasing, run phasing. But obviously you're going to want a mana flask early until you switch to Eldritch Battery. You'll want a life flask, a Quicksilver. I like to run an Amethyst flask personally, because chaos damage sucks. And that's it. This medium cluster jewel is very, very simple to craft. It's literally all I do is alt spam until I hit Hulking or Dread, and then I regal until I get it. It may take a second, but these are honestly very cheap anyways, and we want to get is the least amount of passives we can. If possible, if it's 6, it's 6. Whatever, so be it. Ideally, you would want 4 to give yourself a little bit less stress on the passive skill tree. But if it's 6, it's still fine because that's more damage for you at the end of the day. Very generic jewels. This whole setup is extraordinarily cheap. You will be off the ground with millions of damage in no time. As you can see, we're we're pretty dang tanky. 77,000 effective hit pool, right? That's going to go down to about 50k against the Guardian and Pinnacle. You can tank most hits, and you're going to be blocking the vast majority of them. So this is one of the favorite things about this build is it's tanky. It can do bosses. It can do mapping. You're not going to be dying left and right. And it's honestly, it's nice. You know, it's kind of nice being super tanky. That's the build. I really don't know what else I can tell you guys on this build. Like I said, it's extremely straightforward, very straightforward. So, guys, thank you for watching this leak start video. I had a lot of fun with this build in particular. I played it for a while, and I am really excited to share this with you guys. You know me, I love my minions. This is probably my favorite minion build to date, and that's saying a lot because the poison carrying golem was incredible. So, if you guys did enjoy this video, please do me a favor, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'd love to hear you guys' feedback. If you play the build, let me know what you think of it. If you have constructive criticism or any feedback, please feel free to comment. Hit me up on my Discord, and I would love to hear what you have to say. So you guys have a good rest of the week. Be good, and we will see you guys on Friday for Crucible League launch. I'm excited. Y'all be good.